Today's guest started his outdoor product business in 2018, grew to over 5,000 retail stores, and continues to see exponential growth, leading his company to be the 12th fastest growing consumer product business in the US in 2023. He shares personal experiences that will teach you how to get into and maximize brick and mortar revenues, how to secure NCAA and other license deals, and what pitfalls to avoid as you grow your business.
Are you looking for new ways to make your sales grow? You've tried other podcasts, but they don't seem to know. Harvest the growth potential of your product or service as we share stories and strategies that'll make your competitors nervous. Now, here's the host of the Harvest Growth Podcast, John LeClaire.
Welcome back to the show. I'm really excited to be speaking with Tyrone Hazen today. He is the founder of Puffin Drinkwear. I'm going to grab mine in a second. I love this product, but I'll let him showcase it first as he talks about the product. It's a really cool product line that he's developed, and they've had great success with it in a fairly short period of time. So we're going to talk about the cool product, the stories, etc. Tyrone, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, John. Really happy to be here. Excited to share the Puffin story with you and your audience.
So let's start off by talking about the product. So if you want to show one for those watching, obviously for those who are not, you can check it out at Puffin, Puffin, drinkwear.com. For those watching the video, you get to see quite a bit of some of the styles. You can see them in the background behind them. But let's talk about what is the product, describe it for our audience, and tell the origin story.
Absolutely. So yeah, Puffin, we call ourselves Drinkwear. That's W-E-A-R. So we are insulated apparel for your drink to wear. So here's an example of one that we've just done recently. We just got into some licensing deals. So this is an NCAA, University of Oregon, with the Ducks logo there. And so, yeah, just like you treat your beverage like a human being or a character of some sort. And so it's got insulating properties like a traditional drink holder, but in this case, it's just way more stylish, super fun. You can have some, if you've got an affinity for a particular school or a type of style or of dress or team, band, those types of things. That's the direction that we're going. So you can put a little bit of personality into your drink while you're keeping your hand warm and your beverage cold, or the other way around.
And one of the things I love about it too, it has like a grippy base on the bottom. This is one of my favorites that I have is I wear a lot of vests, as you can see in the video right now. And this is, the vest version. It's really well insulated. It almost feels like a really high quality vest. And on the bottom, I think all of them, at least the ones I have a rubber base that gives it a little bit of an angle as it sits there, but avoid it from being moved too easily or knocked over on the countertop, even better than a can or a bottle by itself, I think, which has made a big difference. Did the original designs, can you talk maybe about what was the first design you came up with as you had this idea and what's changed over time?
Sure, yeah. And well, if you push that down, it's actually pretty satisfying. If you push hard enough on the can, it'll settle in. We've got a little channel in there that sets perfectly into the base. I love that you recognize that. No, that was not originally there. So the original design was actually a sleeping bag. So I guess the perfect opportunity. I'll jump into kind of the origin story. So I was with some friends. I lived in a town called Bend, Oregon, and we're an up and coming outdoor kind of mecca. So we're 3 hours from anything resembling a city. We're in the middle of the Cascades. We've got a bucolic river that runs through town. And so there's paddleboarding and river activities all summer long. And then in the winter, we've got Mount Bachelor, which is one of the largest skiable acreage resorts in the country, and backpacking and hunting, all the things outdoor. And we also have, we're about 100,000 people, and I think we've got over 30 breweries. So we punch way above our weight from a beer drinking and beer producing state. So I was with some friends having a couple beers at a buddy's barbecue one day, and about 6 of us. And the host at one point noticed that all of us were drinking but didn't have koozies. And so he thought, oh, shoot, let me run in and grab. So he's got a box, and he starts tossing everybody these pretty traditional neoprene style koozies. But luckily for me, the one that he tossed to me was this one that I have right here. And it's kind of a homemade, I think it's made out of the remnants of an old sleeping bag or something. And it's just got the Velcro straps on either side. So you can just wrap it around your beverage and there you go. You've got your insulation. But what I noticed about it when he handed it to me and I put my bottle of beer in it was that it feels like that's my sleeping bag, circa 1986 or so. And it struck me in that moment. I happened to have a bottle of beer. That was another like serendipitous moment. Instead of a can, I had a bottle. And so as I'm holding it, looking at it, I'm thinking sleeping bag, and then I'm noticing that my bottle is proportioned somewhat like a human being. And I thought, oh, hey, wouldn't that be fun if I were to make a koozie that looks like a sleeping bag, but still has the functions of a traditional koozie. Again, here in Bend, we do beer, we do the outdoors. It'd be a perfect cross pollination, and I thought people would really love it. So that was what sparked the idea. And I've had a couple of, I don't want to call them failed, but I have a couple of attempts at product company startups in the past, and each one of them was a stepping stone to the next. And so the most recent one was in a higher tech, was a Bluetooth audio system. So it was very different, but I happened to have some contacts in manufacturing that I was able to reach out to. So I did. I reached out and I said, hey, I've got this new project. I don't know if you guys do soft goods, but here's kind of what I'm thinking. And they said, well, we think we know what you mean. Can you send us a tech pack? And I have no background in product development. I didn't know what a tech pack was. So I did what came to mind as the next best thing, which was to send them a one sheet of paper with a beer bottle next to a sleeping bag. And I was like, just like a mummy bag style. I was like, just do this. And they were like, you know what? We got it. Off we go. And so we had the zipper pull was a bottle opener, and it had a little stash pouch in the back that you could put chapstick or a lighter or something. And that was it. It was all just kind of a cut and sew type of product. The first rounds, we call that our V1.
And do you still have sleeping bags? The ones I know of on your website, the product ones I bought are all jackets, that sort of thing. Do you have sleeping bags still?
We do. They're not as popular as all the really fun stuff we've come up with since, but that's kind of the mummy bag style there. And this one, so we've upgraded it. It also has the siliconized TPU base. But yeah, so we call that the OG because it's the original. But yeah, mostly we are, and that was before we had come up with the name Drinkwear and that idea that, oh, that's what we make. We make things for your drink to wear. So yeah, it's still around, but it's slowly disappearing as it gets swallowed up by all the other fun stuff that we're coming up with.
Yeah. As the new products come out, how many different variations or styles do you currently have?
Oh my gosh. We have like 144 different SKUs. So we have probably 24 different silhouettes, as we call them. So that's just general style. And then each of those styles comes anywhere from 2 to 6 different color variations. We're trimming that down. That was one thing that we got a little bit out in front of our skis on. And we get what's called SKU proliferation. And you start to see that some things are performing way better than others, and you're way better off to focus on those. So 2025, we've culled that down to less than half, honestly. So we've got a lot that we make now that we won't make in the future. And we're going to focus on the really great ones. And as we come up with new things, we'll just do 1 or 2 variants. We'll do some product testing ahead of time so we know what we're getting ourselves into, to make sure that we don't have a bunch of inventory that's not as popular as some of the other items.
I think that's a pretty common road for products where style is such an important part of what the product is, because you don't know what's going to sell well. You could predict, I could predict or whatever, but until you get them out there in the market. But now you've got data, right? So now you've got this big number of SKUs. You can see which ones are selling really well and which ones might not be. And so it helps you make those decisions. That's, I think, a pretty normal road. So along the way, you've had a lot of success, as I alluded to in the introduction. I think in 2023, you were the 12th fastest growing consumer product company in the country, that's pretty impressive. What's been the most successful marketing channel to date? Like where are you selling? What's driving that growth?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been really lucky to have some really incredible retail partners. And so when I came up with this idea and brought on a co-founder, our thinking was, oh, this is going to just go internet sensation viral, and we're going to take off, and we're going to be able to sell all these things direct to consumer. And that is a tough nut to crack, and for a number of reasons that we can get into if we have time. But we very early on had success in retail, and we had the margins that allowed us to play in that space. So we partnered up with a number of retailers, kind of tested things out. It worked, and we just kept rolling that snowball. And so we probably do 75 to 80% or more of our sales go through the wholesale channels, through just other retailers that have brick and mortar stores, and the remainder come through our website. Yeah. Oh man, so many. REI is one of our big ones. We've got Dick's Sporting Goods. Shoot, off the cup. We're in about 5,000 stores. So I'm trying to think of the ones that are relevant. Urban Outfitters. We do some other ones that retailers that have really great sales online. So Uncommon Goods was an early partner, and they were really big for us. But one of the interesting things, John, for us is that we're the type of product that we can live in so many different channels. So we started and we were thinking, well, we're outdoor. So we went to, we're in REI, Bass Pro Cabela's, and Shields and Academies. And so we're all these like kind of outdoor Sportsman's Warehouse, outdoor or sporting goods, kind of those two are adjacent, those types of places. But I'm also in grocery stores, and we're in gift shops throughout the country. And we sell through Ace Hardwares sometimes. We've got dozens of Ace Hardware accounts. So we're really lucky in that as one channel if we start to like really flesh out one channel, we can go open these other channels. So one of the things that we're looking at in 2025 and we've kind of laid some of the early groundwork this year is getting into lifestyle stores. So your Tilly's, Zoomies, Journeys, PacSun, those type of stores where the people that, not everybody shops at an REI. There's only about 184 of them in the country. Whereas if we or Farm and Ranch, right? If we can go into a Tractor Supply, there are over 2,000 locations. And so the same person that's shopping at REI may not go into a Tractor Supply and vice versa. So we're really lucky in that regard that we can go get in front of our customers in so many different ways, because anybody could be a customer of a Puffin.
And what was the first success? I think a lot of listeners may be DTC right now and maybe succeeding really well, but trying to get into retail as a next step or a way to grow. And as you said, you struggled, if that's the right word to use, but it was smaller, let's say in the beginning of DTC. And then where it really took off was when you got into brick and mortar retail. So what was the first successful step into retail that then really helped to catapult your growth after that?
I love that you asked that, because I love this story. So our very first success in retail was just a mom and pop style little gift store, kind of a higher end gift store here in our little town of Bend. So we've got this little town, kind of Main Street style downtown with 2 one-way streets, and they're about 3 blocks long each. And there's a store down there called the Bend Store, and they sell a lot of things that come out of Bend. The city of Bend actually has a logo. And so they sell a lot of things that are adorned with this logo. And so I went in there in September of 2018. So we hadn't even launched yet. Technically, we launched in 2019, but I had a handful of products that we had produced that I was going to go test the market with. And so we went in there. So this is September of 18. So tourist season had come to an end, but holiday shopping hadn't really started yet. So I don't know if that was a good thing for us or not, but the store was pretty much dead, and managed to get in touch with the owner there. Her name is Delia. And she just didn't get it at first. We just had the sleeping bag, and she was like, "Oh, I don't really know. Maybe come back closer to the holidays and people will want them for Christmas ornaments or something. I'm not quite sure." Luck would have it, there was one person in the store at the time, and he happened to hear this exchange. And he comes over and he looks at it and he says, "I'm so sorry to interrupt. Is that what I think it is? Can I buy 2 of those right now?" And so kind of put my hands up, backed away from the counter, and was like, "Hey, Delia, I'll leave 10 with you. Those are your first 2 sales. Sell them for whatever makes sense to you. That's your profit. I'll give you a call in a couple of weeks. We'll see how they're going." The next day she calls and says, or send me a message and says, "Hey, can I get, 36 more or so?" So, okay, sure. So on Wednesday, I drop off 36. The next day again, "Hey, can I get 100 before the weekend?" So I drop off 96 or something on Friday. And then on Monday, I get a message and she says, "Hey, I know you have limited inventory. Can I buy everything you have left?" So we knew we had something there, and I had to tell her no, because the point wasn't to sell out of the 1,000 units that I had at the time, although that would have been really cool. The point was to figure out, where can I sell these? And so then I take them over to Pack, Ship, and More, which is kind of a mailboxes, et cetera type of, they're just packaged goods, but anywhere that just has stuff, anywhere that somebody might make an impulse buy, I wanted to test them. So we've got some grocery stores here in town that are local, and so I was able to get into those, and some against, very specific sports retailers that we were able to get into and really test it. But what I did, and this is probably one of my areas of specialty or of expertise, was as kind of on the creative finance side. So what I told Delia was, "No, I can't sell you what I have left. but we have enough time to produce more before the holidays really hit if you pay for them all up front. And so she did. And so she gave us about, it was $4,600 check or something. And I was able to use that as a deposit on another much larger production overseas and got them air freighted over, and they landed in early November. And we managed to make a go of it. And so she was one of our great retailers for a long time. But then we get to take that story with us everywhere we go. Every retailer I go talk to, I say, hey, listen to this. This is what happened to this person. If you get us where the customers see us, you'll have that same experience. And we find that. We have some stores that we're not getting the sell-through that we would expect for the number of the foot traffic that they have. We have all these things now that we can get a feed from their sales metrics to out, so we can kind of dice it up. And we'll have some stores that are equally sized in foot traffic, and their sell-through is off the charts. And then others that have similar sell-through, and we get, it's crickets. And we find that, this one's got our displays. They've got us set up, they've got us really well merchandised, and we're sitting up by the front cash wrap. Whereas the other one that's not doing as well, they've got us back in hydration on a lower shelf somewhere. Well, nobody's coming into a store for a Puffin. This is an impulse buy. People are coming in for something else, and then they see it and go, oh man, Uncle Jerry's going to love that. Let's grab 2 of those real quick, and we'll take. Or we're going boating this weekend. The kids will love this. So, so that has been what has helped us. Like all of these little stories, as we learn what works, we are able to parlay that into the pitch, so to speak, when we go talk to other retailers to try and get in. We say, hey, if you do it this way, these are kind of the results that you might be able to expect.
It's a great story. And I think it's something that, everyone can take to heart. The temptation is always to go to the big retailers first, if it's Walmart or REI or whatever space you're in, right? But there's a lot of risk in that. Is it going to sell well? And if it doesn't, you're kind of out, right, for a while. Figure the things out in the onesie, twosie, mom and pop type stores and find this success story. I would say I wouldn't use the word lucky, right? But whatever you want to refer to, like what a great opportunity that you really took advantage of. Now, just as easily, it could have been a store that wasn't a fit for your target market and it didn't work. Well, that's fine. Move on to the next one, right? Find the one that ended up being, I think the Ben store was the name of it, right? So find that Ben store that's going to be that perfect one, whether it's the first one you go to or the 10th. And then you can find stores that are similar, retail outlets that are similar, and really grow from there in a lower risk environment, starting with a slower or smaller store count, as it were. Now, you mentioned the NCAA license deal, and you've got some Peanuts license, the cartoon Peanuts license deal items as well. There, he's holding up one with a cool jacket with Snoopy on the back, or not Snoopy. Yeah, that's Snoopy. Yep, like, which name is it? It's been so long since I saw it. Love it. So talk to us about how license deals, whether it's NCAA or whether it's Peanuts or whatever's next, how has that helped your business?
Yeah. Well, we mentioned before that retail is such a great place for us. One thing that it does is it feeds our direct-to-consumer. So I'm going to take one step away from your question and come back and ask it. So one of the things that we have found is that 80% of the people that purchase on our website have found us before in retail. So what we're looking for oftentimes is another way to drive our direct-to-consumer sales in addition to the drive that we get from people having already found our things. And so tapping into people's affinities and knowing that they can, we've got 144 SKUs. No one carries all of them. And so we might have something that somebody doesn't know exists. And so we want to drive people to our website, and we also want to provide things that people want. And that's kind of where your SKU count can go crazy, is because everybody's got an idea. Oh, you know what you should do? You should make one of these. And so you're like, yeah, we should. And you make more and more and more. But the licensing is where you really tap into people's affinity for something. Like I said before, if it's a particular sport or a particular sports team, if you've got a favorite band, or if you've got a favorite movie character, or one of those, any of those types of things, that's an opportunity for us to say, hey, we've got one of these things for you. And it's kind of really exciting, and it's a sexy and fun world to try and get into, but it's challenging, and it can be the death knell to the business as well. There are a lot of people who are like, hey, how come you're not doing NFL yet? And we're like, because you never know which of the teams is going to do well. And sometimes the NFL is going to require that you do all of the teams. And so if I've got inventory on all of the teams, and this team is just dogging it in a particular year, or they just don't have a lot of merch sales, I've got to sit on X thousand units because that's my minimum order quantity from my factory. And they might just sit there and they go stale, and I can't do anything with them. So it can be really challenging. And then but yeah, so there's, it's that risk reward. And so you need to make sure that you're far enough along and big enough to reach, to be able to take some of those risks. So the way that the licensing world works is you have to attract them. You have to reach out to somebody and say, hey, I like your brand. We'd like to license it. What does that look like? And if you're lucky enough, you'll get some communication going there. And what they do is they set, you pay a royalty. So you get to use their mark. And for every one of your units you sell, you might give them anywhere from 12 to 20% of what you sold that unit for might go to them for the ability to use their mark and kind of speak to their audience. So they don't want to just take the risk and say, oh, cool, pay us 15% of everything you get, off you go. They say, yeah, but we want you to guarantee us a certain amount. And so some guarantees might be $1,500. Some are $50,000. So there's one that we're looking into now that is a $50,000 per year, and we have to sign up for 2 years guarantee. We think it can work. We run the numbers and we've got the right channels to go into. We think, yeah, this might be worth the risk, but that's a huge risk because if it doesn't pay off, it's not that they don't care, but they're going to get their $50,000. And if I don't have it, or if that, prevents me from doing something else, then the opportunity cost there might have been too great. And so while it seems really great, and again, in order to convince them that you're worth the time, because there's a lot of legal that goes into this, you need to have a marketing plan and a sales channel strategy. And you generally have to have doors. You say, hey, we're going to go into these 1,500 doors. Here's what the sell-through looks like. Here's why we think we can hit well. I mean, they don't want to make the minimum guarantee. They want to make multiples of that. So that's just to protect their downside. But ideally, you're going to do so much more than that. So you've got to be prepared to, one, convince them that you can do that, and then go deliver on it for yourself.
So I want to shift gears a little bit. This has been really fascinating. You've obviously turn this business into a massive success, but you're not stopping, which I love, right? You've got this vision of where to go next and really how to grow it. License deals are one. And I know you and I were talking about getting into direct to consumer marketing a little bit more to even grow that as a larger portion of the business. But with this expertise that you've built up launching this and other products over the years, you also consult with startups that are anywhere from $0 to $1 million in sales and help them along the way. Can you speak to maybe a recent piece of advice that you've shared with one of your clients that might be helpful for our listeners?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think that what kind of my focus for some of these earlier stage companies are people that just have an idea and go, I've got this idea. I don't know what to do with it. I don't come from a place. I don't come from a family or have any connections that have taken a physical product from their mind and as an idea and taken it to market. So there are so many hurdles to overcome just, before you even get the first product to go even try and sell it. So what I try to do is offer, 80-20 rule, like where you put a little bit of effort here and that's going to maximize your return for those things. You need some foundational things as well. I think one of the things that comes up very often, some of my earliest folks are like, oh, I haven't, or if somebody hears that I do this type of work, they go, oh yeah, I had this idea. And the first thing they think of is they want to go get a patent. And I think that if you go search for how to get a patent or where to get a patent or do I need a patent online, you're going to get patent agents and patent attorneys saying, yes, absolutely you do. And you should come my way and I'll help you get that. And I don't think that's nefarious. They're trying to help you protect your idea. The challenge is for really little guys like us that don't have millions and millions of dollars to go try and make a run at these things, we've got to be really smart with our funds. And so if you were to spend $15,000 or $20,000 on a patent, which is very easy to do, that's kind of on the low end if you have a fairly simple patent, that might have been the only money you had to go seed your business. And so it's like, yeah, cool. 6 years later or 4 years later, you might have a cool thing to hang on the wall to show that you have this protection. Can you afford to enforce it? Do you have the money to go now actually make the product and go put all the money and effort in that you need to go get some traction on this thing and actually start generating revenue from it? So, I mean, I think that's one. There's other people are also obviously very curious about, well, how do you build out your sales channel? How do you go get in all of these stores? And like you mentioned before, everybody wants to jump into Walmart or Targets and those big guys. And, that's usually really tough to do if you don't have something to show for already. So you need to be starting with the smaller ones. Well, the challenge there is that's a lot of footwork, right? You've got to go to, we have, 3,000 gift stores that are, maybe one or two stores that are owned by a mom and pop kind of thing. I mean, I'm not driving all over the country and knocking on doors to do that. And so I talked to someone recently that's very successful online, and he hasn't been able to figure out how to get into retail. And I mentioned rep groups, and he's like, "What's that?" So we had just no idea, and that's what got us started. I am lucky enough that our town here of Bend, Oregon, is where Hydro Flask is from, and Roughwear and Blackstrap. There are tons of brands that come out of this tiny little town. So I'm able to call up some of these folks in the early days and just say, "Hey, I've got an idea. I know who you are. Can I buy you a coffee or a beer one day and pick your brain about some things?" So I did just that a lot here with Puffin, and one of my early contacts was a friend of mine named Nikki, and he had another hydration related device called Hideaway. And he kind of turned us on to this idea of rep groups. He's like, "Yeah, this is a group. It's basically outside sales agents. You hire them. They work in a particular region and of a particular vertical or channel." So in our case, it was the gift channel. And so you go to a region and they say, "Hey, we have 15 sales reps and they cover this region of 5 or 6 Pacific Northwest states. And if we want to bring on your line and we think it makes sense, we take it to all these stores that we already have relationships, and we say, hey, here's why you should do this, and here's what it looks like, and here's what your margin looks like," and they sell it for you. And of course, they get they get a commission on it. But that you can very easily extend kind of the human resources that you have without committing to hiring 15 employees of your own. And, they kind of eat what they kill, so to speak. In order to make money, they've got to be out there hustling and getting you the business. So there are all these little tips and tricks that, if you were to go get an education in this, that might get missed because you're going to get the foundations. But what I like to focus on are like, what are the things that I know now that I wish I knew 5 or 6 years ago? If I could ask, if I could go back 5 years, how would I do this different? And that's how I advise my clients and to build their structure so that they're getting the most bang for their buck early on, and that they're focusing on optimizing for growth, not necessarily for profit early on, because people oftentimes want to go out and, "Oh, I get a better deal if I make 5,000. I'm like, yeah, but there goes all your money. So you've got to be really focused on, cash flow. And so the financial modeling is something that I spend a lot of time working with folks on as well.
That's helpful. Well, are there any resources that you've used over the years that have been helpful to you that might be helpful to others also?
Yeah, I think that, I'll bring up 2 things. There's a book there's so many books. I read a ton of books in business, and you can go as broad and you can get really, really focused on a particular niche subject or topic that you want to learn, which is brilliant, and learn at your own pace. One of my favorite books of all time for small companies, even those that are going to grow big, is The E-Myth by, I think it's Robert Gerber, Michael Gerber, The E-Myth. And that one's so great because it starts off with like, hey, you are the only employee. And you start here, and then he kind of walks you through the process of how you go start adding on things, and you build your SOPs and create a structure that will work as you work your way up, and you have the ability to delegate to folks. And so I think the example used a lot is like a woman that has a pie shop. And it really does translate and continues to translate as you grow in business. The other thing that, like I mentioned before, I'm so lucky to be in this town of Bend here in Central Oregon, that has been really helpful is the network of people who have either been here before and or are doing it again, are doing it with you right now. And so I'm a member of local groups and national groups that are mostly virtual, where we can get together and I can say, hey, we're getting ready for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I've had a challenge with this little thing. We're going to move away from this particular product we're using, this, plug into our Shopify app system. What are you all using for this, that, or the other? And with that, like collective brain trust, you can get so much more information with so much less work than trying to pound your head against the wall to figure all of them out. And so I think building a community around yourself, again, whether it's people that have done this before or people that are doing it now, you can kind of divide and conquer and all come up with solutions that will work for everyone, and you can test things out. And that has been really helpful. And I'm telling you, like the road to success as an entrepreneur can get fairly lonely. There's not a lot of people that really know what it's like and what the pressure's like. I had my house mortgaged for this business, and there were times where I had $40,000 in payroll coming up in 3 days, and I had $247 in the bank. And I can't talk to my employees about that because they're going to want to just go start shopping around and finding another place to go. And so that community of entrepreneurs and other people that are going along this same independent journey you can kind of still do it together. And so I would urge people to, band together, find others that are doing, even if they're doing the exact same thing. It's kind of the rising tide lifts all ships mentality. If you've got a product and somebody else is doing almost the same thing, find a way to work together, because the exposure that you provide for whatever that industry is that you're in can benefit you both better than you competing against one another in that same channel. So cooperation with a group.
Hurdles you hit when you're running a business, whether you're a brand new editor, been doing it for a long time, that people don't talk about, right, openly, but they will when you get to know them, right? So that's why networks, I think, are so important. Like every business, we see on the outside all the successes, right? So the great things that are going on, but every business has been through trials and struggles along the way to get there, and maybe still are, right? And so talking to them one-on-one, finding out, okay, how did you overcome this in your own journey, can really help you, and realize you're not alone in struggles and trials along the way as well. Well, Tyrone, this has been a lot of fun. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think could be helpful for our audience?
One thing that comes to mind, again, if you're out there and you're an entrepreneur, I found that oftentimes when I was trying to get a product prototype, or again, I was at that very early stage of going, well, how do I get this idea out of my head and out into the world? And I think the challenge with that is that I was asking exactly that question. I was asking, how do I do this? And what that has you doing when you phrase the question that way is you are looking for a particular answer. I thought that there was one path, and who's the person I need to call to help me do this? And I would rephrase that question as, how can I do this? And that's one that has helped me at almost every hurdle that I faced along the way. You can look at the traditional answers, if there are some out there, that how somebody else has maybe done this before, but any way that you can come up with that gets you from this point where you are to the point where you're trying to be is a way, and it might work. It might not be the most efficient, it might not be the most cost effective, but if it gets you from here to there, then you've made progress and you made it over that particular hurdle. So don't ask, how do you do something? Ask, how can you do something? And that will broaden your horizons to find the right solution.
That's great advice. And you certainly, as you said, everybody's had struggles along the way, but you've also had a lot of successes. And I appreciate you sharing those with our audience today. I've learned a lot and took some notes here. Things like that's a great way to think about that or talk about that too. So thank you for sharing your story. I do want to encourage our audience, please go to puffinDrinkwear.com to check out his line of products. You can see all the SKUs that are located there, or any local retailer. They're everywhere across the country, especially at outdoor shops, Ace Hardware's, as Tyrone mentioned. But please check them out, learn more. And again, thanks for sharing your story. But also to our audience, I want to say, did you know you can meet with a member of my team absolutely free for a 30-minute strategy consultation? We've launched and grown hundreds of products since 2007 and learned some of our strategies while growing OxyClean back in the Billy Mays days. We're here to help. So please go to harvestgrowth.com and set up a call if you'd like to discuss further.